The Firebrand and the Whispering Sky. Chapter 1. Smoke on the Range. The sun fell slow and molten behind the jagged spires of Wendrith peaks, its last golden light catching the dust of the western plains in a shimmer like fireflies dancing above dying coals. The air smelled of horse sweat and sagebrush, and the fading bloom of the violent cinder vine, a stubborn little flower that clung to the arid soil as fiercely as a dream. Atop a rise, silhouetted against the blaze of dusk, sat a man in a weathered long coat of dragon hide, a wide-brimmed hat shadowing a scarred face carved by wind, sun, and time. His name was Rhett Vireldon. Once a rancher of the South Wastes, once a bounty man, once a soldier, now something else entirely. Behind him loomed the great form of his dragon companion, reclining with the air of a creature born of flame and ancient song. The dragon's scales were a lustrous bronze, each one etched faintly with whorls of archaic script. His eyes glowed ember red, full of thoughts older than human kingdoms. "You brood again, Vireldon," came the dragon's voice, not aloud, but within the man's mind, a deep, resonant whisper, like wind through a canyon hollows. "You carry guilt as if it were a brand." Rhett spat into the dust. "'Cause it is, Elarion. You ever tried forgetting the look in a man's eyes when you're the last thing he sees?" "I've seen civilizations fall, cowboy," replied Elarion, stretching his wings with a leathery sigh, "and watched the stars turn cold above their bones. The dead do not stare, only the living remember." Rhett dismounted from the saddle that clung to Elarion's ridged back. It was old leather, cracked and oiled, studded with brass. He unbuckled the flintlock strapped to his thigh, not standard issue, but something he'd fashioned himself, its barrel lined with silver etchings in the style of the old tongue. He checked the powder, then holstered it again. "Still," Rhett said, glancing up at the dragon, "I reckon I've done more wrong than right, and the balance don't feel square no more." They stood in silence for a while, man and beast, overlooking the expanse of the windscarred plains. In the far distance, the lantern lights shimmered in the village of Harthendal, where smoke from cooking fires curled into the sky like offering incense. "Then let's do a little right," Elarion said. "Tonight." Harthendal was a small settlement nestled between two tributaries of the river Elarion. It had grown from a caravan atop to a proper hamlet over the years, but the bones of its frontier past were still there. Wooden palisades, a single stone well, and a temple to the nameless wind. Folk here were tough, wary of strangers, but not unkind. They remembered storms and bandits and the long, dark winter after the War of the Thorn. Rhett tied Elarion to a granite hitching stone outside the village. Not that the dragon needed tethering, he merely preferred not to scare the townsfolk by landing in their square. His kind were rare now, hunted once, revered later, now whispered about in campfire songs. That blurred fact and legend. As Rhett strode through the village, his boots thudding on the wooden walkway, he caught the sideway glances. Children stared wide-eyed. Elders turned away. One man touched the handle of his hatchet as Rhett passed. Inside the tavern, the Bleeding Elm, the light was honey thick with lamplight and smoke. A fiddle played low in a corner. Rhett made for the bar. A tall, wiry woman leaned on the counter. She wore a sheriff's star pinned to a leather vest, and her silver-streaked braid fell over one shoulder like a coiled rope. "You're Vireldon," she said. "Dragon rider from the Burnt Valley. Heard you were dead." "Was," Rhett replied, removing his hat. "Got better. Don't much care for your kind in these parts. You bring trouble with you." "Not looking to stay," he said. "Heard rumours, cattle vanishing, men too." The sheriff narrowed her eyes. "And what's it to you?" Rhett glanced towards the door, feeling Elarion's presence like the steady weight of a loaded gun. "Call it restitution." Later, they stood by the river's edge, beneath a moon the colour of hammered silver. Rhett laid down his rifle and knelt, fingers brushing strange tracks in the mud, hoofed but wrong somehow, deeper, heavier. "Something walks these lands," came Elarion's voice, even though he stood hidden in the trees. "I smell blood on the wind." "Got a feeling it ain't just cattle this thing's after." "It has no name in your tongue," the dragon mused, "but I remember it. A Wendrith, born in the age before speech, when things still hunted in shadow and dream. They feed on fear and fire." Rhett stood, jaw tight. "Then let's feed it lead and flame." "That's the spirit." The first attack came with no warning. A scream echoed from the far side of the river, where a herder's hut stood alone. Rhett sprinted through the underbrush, rifle in hand, eyes sharp in the dim. The Wendrith was massive, antlered, its hide a patchwork of bramble and bone, eyes like pits in the night. Elarion struck from above, fire trailing from his throat, but the thing twisted with unnatural speed, hurling a log-sized claw into the dragon's chest. Rhett opened fire, silver rounds flashing, each shot echoing like a bell of war. The beast shrieked, something between a man's cry and a hawk's, and fell back, smoke pouring from a wound that hissed with black ichor. But it wasn't dead, just watching, waiting. Then it slipped into the woods, vanishing, as if swallowed by the light itself. Later, Rhett crouched beside Elarion, who bled from beneath the cracked scale. "You all right, partner?" "I will be," Elarion rumbled. "But this isn't over." "No," Rhett said, loading his last shot. "It ain't." He stared out into the black trees, the fire inside him kindling again. Not just rage, not just guilt. Purpose. Because he remembered what his pa used to say. "A man's got two choices, son. Be the fire that burns or the hand that holds the lantern." Rhett Vireldon reckoned it was time to be both. To be continued.